There was the opera group run by Mark Dawnford-May, who brought a revelatory production of The Mysteries to London. And I saw it in the West End, and I thought, the talent is extraordinary. The audience was rapt, I was rapt, and I thought, here is gold. Here is something that can give people hope. They came from backgrounds so different from the audience, and yet through the storytelling they were able to connect. And I thought it would make sense to see whether I could do something similar to enable the talent. And indeed, we managed to bring off an extraordinarily inventive, innovative production of the Magic Flute that I took to Young Vic, the West End, all around the world. And it was something positive coming out of a place that seemed to have such intractable problems. And yet here was this little elusive silver thread of talent, of common humanity, doing what theatre does best when it really works, which is giving people the opportunity to put themselves in somebody else's shoes, to break down all kinds of barriers and perhaps change their minds about fast-held prejudice, etc. Out of that came what I felt was the need for another theatre space where this group could perform, but that would also have productions that would be Athol Fugard plays, newly commissioned plays, established plays. By complete chance, I found the Saks Fute and Warehouse, and it became totally obvious that that's where it should be. That was the beginning of it. It seemed right to try and plant a seed in a barren landscape that had such a rich history. And I saw the coloured community as one of our biggest constituencies. And I wanted to think that having the Fugard there could contribute to the reawakening for that community and the reconnection in a tiny way to land that was really there. Theatres have that impact on areas. If you put a theatre into a deprived or neglected area, you will find that there's a regeneration that happens and there's a ripple effect. And it's rather wonderful. There was no one else that I could think of that deserved a theatre to be named after them. Who else? Who else is a giant of South African theatre but Athol? Whose work spoke about common humanity in such a consistent way, who had a fundamental integrity, morality, and capacity to reach people from all over the world and all the linguistic groups and ethnicities with the stories that he was telling, which was essentially about our humanity. And he was very modest in that he didn't initially want it to be called the Fugard.
I'm not a publicity-seeking animal. I just felt uncomfortable. I felt I would lose a certain necessary privacy because that was very important to me in working, in writing. You know, I wanted to be a private individual. Looking back on it now, no regrets, absolutely none. Because, oh God, it was so wonderful finally to be in a situation that allowed me to function as a professional not as somebody just sort of hiding away in corners and making theatre. I would never forget how heartwarming it was for me when I arrived at the theatre, parked my car. I was always given, before I'd even got into the theatre, on the pavement outside the theatre, such an incredibly warm welcome, you know, and it just sort of augured that this is the South Africa we want, this sort of feeling between black and white and the stupidities of apartheid. Apartheid. Dirty word.
I had effectively parted company with the Dawnford May group. My idea of the Fugard was that it was for everyone. It wasn't just for one particular group. And the sense that it should be reserved for them, I felt really wasn't what I had in mind. And it was unpleasant, but I was determined that the theatre should survive and should serve all of the communities of the Cape and in fact South Africa. I'm very proud of the Magic Flute especially. I think it's an extraordinary work and I'm very proud of the talent that contributed to it. Well, I was stuck with the theatre and I needed to find someone who I thought could run a theatre. Now, there are not many people here. And someone suggested Dan, who was running the University Little Theatre. And I thought it needed youth. It needed someone who had the energy, the production experience. It took us a little while to figure out how we could overcome the sense that after the debacle, as it was seen, of the Dawnford May, Sango, Portobello experience, that we would continue. And so it took a year or two before people felt, the Fugard is here to stay. It's no good for one affluent individual from however many thousands of miles away to give the money. You need buy-in and you need people and corporates from here who can then generate audience to come here. A theatre has to be owned locally by the constituency that is going to come and see its shows. It's wonderful to have a mad philanthropist, an activist, because I didn't just write the checks. But that is not enough. It needs to be owned in every sense of the word by the community that it's located in. And somehow I think I was probably the theatre's worst enemy. Because I think I was perceived to be either so affluent that it was like a parking permit, or so stupid, or so clever that I made such a lot of money out of it. Because who the fuck would put that money and that time into it otherwise? Why? They must go and have their head read. So yes, I suppose I was misunderstood.
Eric created something which he didn't even himself recognize the significance of in the beginning, because it was an act of defiance. It was such a courageous move on Eric's part. And we're in the Hall of Fame. There's got to be one special acknowledgement of that.
there was a Fugard family. And again, it was an example of a group of people from different backgrounds coming together with a common purpose. They felt that they were on a mission. And I loved that. I thought, there was a real shared belief that what the team was doing was important. And there was an aim always for excellence. And I loved that too. It wasn't just, oh, it'll do. No, it won't do. We'll find another way to do it better. So I liked that. I admired it. And I think for that reason, I was prepared to continue through difficult times, just to keep it going. We did 10 years, a decade. I mean, the space theatre for it did, I think, it wasn't 10 years, about 7 years, and it was so vital, so incredible in the early 70s. And I'd like to think that the Fugard occupied a similar mission in its lifetime.